Hello, and welcome to another installment of Improvement Roulette, where we look at an example of a Lean Six Sigma or business improvement tool and a type of small business. And we look at some examples of applying those tools in that small business. Why? To save you money, to save you time, to make it easier for you to apply these concepts so that you can improve. I'm Amanda Zimmerman. I'm a Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt, and I've been doing this for the last 10 years, helping businesses all over the world make their processes better. Now, today's topic that we're looking at comes from lean, and you can tell because it's a Japanese word. So this tool set really helps us to simplify our processes. Now, this one is called Jidoka. Now, don't be turned off or scared about this term. I know it sounds like, oh, what does that mean? It means automation. You're already doing this. You don't need the fancy term, but now that you have it, you can start to use it. So automation, automating your processes. Now, today we drew out the example of a realtor. So how does a realtor automate their processes? Now, when we think about a realtor, there's a lot of different steps. There's connecting with their client, taking their client on walks around different properties, but there's also letting their client know what properties are available. And if you've purchased a property in the last several years, you may see a big difference between realtors that use automations and realtors that don't. So realtors that don't might come in with printed sheets, they might come in with a call, they might have you go to all these different sites. Whereas many of the realtors that have moved to automated systems are now able to put in the settings into whatever software they use to look at the realty available in that area and have automatic reports go out to you on properties that match your search criteria. They can also look through those and make sure like, hey, I know this one is going to closest match what they want. So really easily they can automate that to be able to send out an email or text to you so that you can only look at properties that really align with what you want. So this is really exciting. What a great way to help us to automate our processes. Now, another thing that they might do is have some long-term nurture of clients that come back or buy multiple properties. Now, they don't want to have to handwrite an email to each of those people each and every time they send that out. They have topics that they know you care about. And so they want those to be automated. So what they can do is set that up so that every week or every month they send out a newsletter or an email to their clientele, letting them know about open properties or letting them know about issues that are relevant and important to them. They don't have to do anything to make that happen. They set it up and it starts to go out. Now, another piece of automation that we want to always think about is how we identify defects. So within automation, we also have the opportunity to have really clear signals come up to us of when something is not working. So if an email doesn't go, if it gets bounced back, we should have something instantly that lets us know that. And we should resolve that. We should either take that email out of the system. That might reduce our costs of how many people we're emailing. Or we should connect with that person via phone. It's a great chance to give them a call and say, hey, has something changed? Or what's going on with you? So anytime you automate your processes, you want to make sure that defects are going to be visible and that you can address those defects as quickly as possible. Now, I will caution you on one thing that I see a lot with people that are putting together automations. What I see really frequently is that before we've even done this once or connected with people at all, we're trying to automate our processes. So automating things before we know what works and what doesn't. This can create a lot of waste. We start to make a lot of assumptions about our processes that really reduce our ability to get the value out of that we want. So let's say, for example, you're a new realtor and you start to send out immediately this long-term nurture sequence to your audience to say, hey, this is what's going on here. Here's a cool event over there. This is what's happening in the community. But because you're new, maybe you don't know the topics your clients really care about. or maybe you don't know the formatting that makes sense, or the way all of these things link up in the email, or whether or not that link is really the link that you should be sending out. What you might want to try before you go to full automation is just having some emails, maybe weekly, that you send out, or test out some different emails to your clients. Now, this might not be the best example of automation, but let's think about another example of making sure that we do it manual first. So what I see a lot of teams do is before they test out their improvement, they automate it, right? So they don't know if it's going to work or not. So if we have like a new piece of software and we're going to be putting in a new code that does something, we want to make sure that we test that first and that that's going to work, because otherwise it could create bugs and it could create actually downtime or other problems for our clients. So it's really important that you always test these things out. I can't think of, I know I've had this issue with a few clients recently, and I'm just trying to remember the specific issues of what they were trying to test out that was not going to work, or what they wanted to automate before they tested it out. I think one of the big things, is making sure that we understand the voice of the customer or the value that we're delivering. So as long as you make sure that you connect to that value that you're delivering, the better your automations will be, the more you'll be able to identify those things that you do want to automate. Because we also want to make sure, so for example, we want to make sure that if we're sending those emails out, we're sending those to clients that actually want to open them and use them. We're not sending them out to every client that we've ever spoken to, right? We want to make sure that we are following maybe regulations and guidelines so that we're only sending things out to people that have legally opted in, right? So see, these are some of the things that we have to be careful of if we jump to automation before we've actually done this process. Now, I see this, here's some examples. So with administrative processes. So let's say you're in the office and you have some processes that you want to put maybe a macro in Excel or something that you want to automate in that way. And so you start to go ahead and try to make these automations, but you make these automations for data that you haven't even made sure management supports. Is that the data that management actually wants to see? So this is what I see all the time. This is a good example. All the time what I see, hey, we need to put together some data. We put together that data, somebody works to automate it, to make all of these forms and queries so that we can access it really quickly, but then it turns out the manager didn't even want that information or will never use that information again, right? So it's really important that before you automate that whole process and spend all that time doing that, before you do that, share that data with the manager and say, hey, is this what you wanted? How frequently do you want this? Set those expectations and have those conversations. Otherwise, you're building waste into your processes. So that's a few examples of Jidoka for automation of our processes, keeping in mind that we want to make sure we are identifying defects and that we really know that the process that we are designing is going to be for something that we, the process that we're designing is going to be something that's value added, right, to our clients, that we're not trying to do it maybe backwards. So tomorrow we're going to talk about a dentist, and we are going to use a check sheet. So this is a really easy tool that we can use to start gathering data, which means we can make data-driven decisions, which means we can use a lot of the other tools that we've covered. So that's everything that I have for you in Improvement Roulette for today. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope that you are able to make your processes just a little bit better each and every day from watching these videos. Hopefully you're able to automate something today so that you can make a little bit more time available for you so that you don't have to work so hard.